Right, come on, let's get a bit of energy in. Let's get a bit of energy in me. How now, brown cow? How now, brown cow?
Watch this. No way.
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I'm Sam Williams, and it is a great privilege to introduce my foursomes partner of last weekend, Bruce Fitzpatrick, to the pod.
Hello.
How are we doing, mate?
I'm excellent, actually.
I must
Excellent. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all the better for this new microphone I'm wielding, the new SM58. So, bit of investment in Jar HQ last few weeks, something handheld. Yeah.
I'm sticking with the old one.
Yeah.
I think you're actually a bit loud when you did hello and welcome back. I think it may be a little bit of reverberation there, but new bit of equipment, new toy, takes a bit of time to get used to how it all works.
Yeah, well, there we go. Anyway, we were down at Burnham and Berrow last weekend and thought we'd do a little Course Diaries podcast today. So, Bruce, why don't you fill us in on what we were doing down at Burnham, who we're representing, and what it was all about?
There you go. No messing around, straight into it. So we were down at Burnham and Berrow for the rescheduled Brent Knoll Bowl, which is a scratch foursomes competition played at Burnham every year, typically in March. But obviously with COVID and lockdown, it was cancelled in 2020, and then it was this year's version was pushed back to August. So we went down. We were representing the Wiggles Golfing Society, weren't we? So it's teams of 6, 3 foursomes pairings, scratch foursomes golf, match play, knockout competition. Pretty straightforward, really, in terms of a format. Just straight up gritty match play. So we went down on Friday for a bit of an early sighter, didn't we? Took it fairly seriously.
Round.
It was our debut event, wasn't it? That you and I, the Wiggles have won it a couple of times in the 70-year history. It's about that. It's about 70-year history of the event.
That,
but our first run out for them, which was a real honour to get the call up. And so we headed down on Friday, which is usually, what is it, an hour and 40 minutes from where we are?
Hour
in
and
Midlands?
40, yeah.
Yeah, you think so? It's probably normally the closest links course, I'd say, to where we are. But clearly, I mean, a lot of other people had the same idea. So we were stuck on the M5 for the most torturous journey. Ended up taking over 3 hours, rushed onto the tee, played a few holes, didn't we? Got a bit of a practice round in. And then
golf was a bit dicey, wasn't it, on the Friday, if we're going to be honest. I think we both hit a few wipes in the afternoon. So we're going out as the team of 6, playing a little bit of a foursomes practice before the matches start on Saturday and the draw. I mean, kicking off with the course, I feel like maybe it's been probably 3 or 4 years since I'd played Burnham. Having played an awful lot of links golf over the last few years, I was going back to it thinking, yeah, it's a nice enough course, but probably I was pretty, nonplussed about Burnham going in.
Really?
Yeah, I think I probably gave a bit of a harsh time. I was like, yeah, it's okay. It's all right. There's some good holes. There's some bad holes. It's okay. And then I came away from the event and thought, yeah, that was a poor take. It's actually really good.
Way wider the mark. I went down thinking, this is a really, really good golf course, really good test of golf.
You've played it before, haven't you? You've played
matches
there in the past.
Played it a couple of times. And I think it is a great test. We obviously saw it in slightly different conditions. So Saturday morning, I mean, the forecast, we were there while they were doing the draw on the Friday night. And it's nice, actually, because obviously there's 16 teams. There's the consolation plate competition, is it?
So I think if you get knocked out in the morning, you go into a bye knockout, don't you, for the plate? And if you go out of that as well, you're playing a Stableford. So I mean, you want to stay in the competition for sure.
Yeah, so it is very competitive, but it's a good social mix as well. So you have the odd team putting a bet on themselves or on other teams, sort of hedging it on Friday night. But we were looking at the forecast, thinking this is going to be horrific, and we did get pretty wet Saturday morning. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. I also think in foursomes you have a bit more of a chance to get have some breathing room and kind of get everything in order waterproof wise. And yeah, I mean, it's playing it when it was kind of wet but fairly calm, and then on the Sunday when the conditions the wind picked up a bit and it was a bit more dicey with the wind. That was cool to see how the course, played is differently, like any links course does, really plays differently with those different winds, just switching a little bit on Saturday and then picking up in a completely different direction on Sunday. But it was good fun, wasn't it? I mean, our first time playing foursomes golf in a more competitive setting, I guess, like that, together as a pair. And it was really enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd go so far as to say it's possibly the most fun I've had on a golf course in the last year. I mean, I think you can probably get carried away with thinking playing a lot of golf, it's not about score, and actually it's about company and having a good time. And it is. And the company was great. We had a great laugh. The guys we played against from Old Shaburnians, Leather Jackets, we played the RAF in the semi-final, who actually went on to win. And obviously we got knocked out in the morning. Amazing company, all great guys. But there is something about scratch foursomes match play that for me is like, yeah, that really is the greatest format of the game. I think if you're playing well and the matches are close, I think it's really hard to beat that. I thought that was outstanding fun. Like you're really focused. There's a team dynamic that makes, you're not on your own. It's not isolating. You're supporting your partner. Sometimes it's just as much fun chipping out of the buckthorn or wherever you put me on the 12th hole on the Sunday morning and wrestling something out of there with a 58 degree as it is flagging an iron from like 150 or whatever. So yeah, I thought it was just amazing fun. Really, really enjoyable. Gave me a real it was just kind of a nice reminder, I think, of good quality match play golf and how much I've missed that.
Yeah, I think the team dynamic, though, as you rightly point out, is huge to it, because obviously we had our kind of pairing set by midway through the round on Friday, and we kind of knew going in we were probably going to play together. And we'd go off, as it were, in the 3 matches we played. We were always off third as the sort of anchor.
That make us the anchor, does it?
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind an anchor pairing? Is that like we've got that one banked? Is that their thinking?
Well, no. The idea is if it gets dicey, I mean, assuming, which ended up not to be the case, but assuming that the matches are all pretty close and they go down to the final match, then if you know what the stakes are, the anchor pairing should be capable of dealing with that pressure and closing it out if they need to, which it didn't end up falling that way, though, did it? I mean, obviously we were fortunate. We played very well on Saturday morning and won the match there fairly handily, and then walked up to see how our other 2 pairings were getting on. Our second match our first match out had sadly lost. And then it all came down to the second Wiggles pairing, who, a 1-up playing the 17th. And then we watched them play 17 and 18, just about hang on for us to go through 2-1. But what's great is obviously you play to a conclusion. So people say it's the same as the Halford Hewitt, that is at the Old Boys tournament. I've never actually played in, but down at Deal and Royal St George's, it's the same idea there, in that you have to play to a conclusion. So bit of drama, wasn't there, with one of the teams, I think Millfield, playing the old Millfieldians, who were playing the Leather Jackets on Saturday. I think they won the first match, won the first game, and then they were 2 up with 3 to play in the remaining
in both
games.
Of the other 2 matches. Yeah,
they ended up halving both those matches and then losing both of those matches in the sudden death playoff. So
you're going to feel like shit there. Yeah,
quite dramatic, but yeah, it's just, there's no half points in this format, which is quite cool. It gives you a bit of hope, isn't it? You can always, even if you dormy down, all you got to do is just cling on, and then you can win it on the sudden death. So, I mean, it is just a great sort of format, because when you're in that team environment, and it's not just you as a pairing, but there's a couple of other pairs out there, and there's 6 of you down there. You're pulling for the team, aren't you? You're so desperate to play well and get a point for your team, not just stay in the match.
Goal. Yeah, stay in the knockout. Exactly. And it's gritty, isn't it? It's gritty as hell. I think it would be remiss not to talk about the weather on Saturday morning, which was, I mean, it wasn't as bad as Build, but I mean, it was pretty horrendous for a good 8 or 9 holes. So you knew going out you were going to get wet. Waterproofs, I think I had 9 gloves folded up in a bag, good to go. I was like, I'm not getting caught out by the rain. I even went as far as to rent a trolley with an umbrella stand, an electric trolley.
Yeah.
I don't know what your take was on this, Bruce, but I felt like I looked like a non-golfer for those first 10 holes with my performance with the trolley. It was pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know that people could find using an electric trolley so challenging. I never thought, when people talk about the game of golf and it's a difficult sport to play, and it requires a lot of practice and it's just such a sort of fine motor skill. I've never heard anyone talk about the challenges of golf being based around the equipment and actually moving a trolley around the course, because you'd think it's actually fairly straightforward. I mean, even these new electric ones, I don't use an electric trolley. When I do trolley, I just use a manual like push one. But even the electric ones are fairly intuitive. But I mean, you must have tipped over your bag and
I think 5-6 times in
a good handful of times.
Yeah, it was getting embarrassing, wasn't it? Really, I was really tempted of walking across to about the 12th, leaving the electric trolley there and just carrying the bag, because it was really irritating. But no, I felt really embarrassed. Luckily, my golf was okay in the morning and held up. Otherwise, it would have been a real.
I think that helped. It was a bit, as you say, a bit of a distraction. You weren't thinking too much about your swing or how you were playing. Instead, you were just thinking of trying to actually transport 14 clubs and all your accessories from one hole to the next without spilling it all. So that was quite entertaining to watch.
What was your take on the course then? So idea behind Course Diaries, a bit of a kind of a take, I guess, on Burnham. I've kind of already offered up there an opinion. I went in probably without many memories of the place. I think I've played it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't remember playing great when I've played it. The weather's always been fairly mixed.
So that's probably played into your initial assessment going.
So I just didn't really have any expectations. And, kind of looking at the club's history pages, and you look there and you think, yeah, Christ, Fowler did some work there in the early 1900s. Colt's done a whole ton of work. There's obviously that whole J.H. Taylor legacy from when he was the professional there and the keeper of the green. I think Mackenzie did a little bit of consulting there before World War II. It's a star-studded cast of the golden age greats, really. And I thought there was a lot of really good golf holes. What was your take on the course?
Yeah, as I say, I think it's really varied, and there's some great par threes in particular that stand out. I think the 5th, which obviously, you teed off 5, 9 and 17, all really strong par threes. I played 12 and 14. I mean, 12 is obviously a temporary par 3 at the moment because that's been extensively redesigned. It's usually a long par 4, and it's been made longer. And has been built up on the left-hand side, these dunes, like incredible work, and a few standy waste areas that have been put in by Mackenzie and Ebert, who I understand are like the consulting architects at the moment. And that hole is going to be fantastic. But even in the current, I understand that for at least sort of past 12 months or so, maybe a bit longer, it's been played as a long par 3, just to allow that new fairway and the new kind of dunes on the left to properly take and make sure that they're all good to go when it's finally open for play. But the par 3 in its place is a great hole.
It's awesome, isn't it? The threes really, are incredible. Really, you stand on that 9th tee and you've got, I want to say like maybe 6 or 7 bunkers, just beautiful round revetted pop bunkers round the green.
Yeah,
huge runoff down the left, and you're like, yeah, this is pretty much as good a par 3 as you can play. It's the optimal distance for a par 3, in my opinion. It's about 160-ish yards. You can move it forward and backwards from there, but it just plays as a perfect hole. And the 5th, again, it's just an incredible par 3. They're just really nice golf holes, and I think both of those are Colt holes, from what I understand, at least.
Good par 4s as well, like some good challenging par 4s that are mixed. I mean, there's a couple there that are probably quite close to drivable, which gives you a chance to have a go at
16. Nice segue.
Well, that's not what I was getting at, but you always think there's an ulterior motive here, don't you? No, there's a good mixture of short, strategic par 4s, but then you've also got a few that are like fairly long brutes that are 430, 440 plus to fairly tight landing areas. And obviously, again, they play even harder if they're into the prevailing wind. So holes like maybe 6 or 7 as well. I mean, 7 actually, to be fair, I think it's probably the weakest hole on the course.
But also the hardest, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenging one that you're playing across that fairway, and you've got obviously the hazard on the right, and then a pot bunker, and then sort of the maramy grass little bits in the fairway, which are quite nice features. But just actually for me, I didn't rate that hole all that much. But 6 great long challenging par 4. 12 when that's open will be a really good challenging par 4, and then 11 too. I mean, that's a great green, I think, because it's so narrow and so well bunkered, but actually there's a lot of room sort of front to back. So it's just a great test, I think.
I thought the long holes are quite good as well. I think that the 5s, particularly 13, I don't remember 13 being anything like as long, because I think every day I absolutely slotted drive, and you were out of range, and you're sending that forward of yours a fairly handy distance.
Yeah,
but it's a really good golf hole. That, like, it's a really, even the layup shot's tough. And then playing in the afternoon with the Leather Jackets, who are essentially the local society of foursomes golfers. I think it was Neil who was saying, it's the work that Eben and Kenzie have done here. They've built the dune up at the back of the green. They've reshaped the green site, which you can see, and at the back, they've kind of built up the fescue behind it, so it kind of obstructs the view of some house roofs in the distance. You're like, yeah, that's actually really intelligent the way this has been put together. Just some nice finishing touches.
It's a very low stroke index as well, surprisingly, for a par 5, which you don't normally see. And I think that's a combination of the length, but also, as you were saying, like, it's very, very well protected up by the green. So you might have a shot. I think I had a couple of shots in from 280 or so that you gave me, and you're just thinking, well, I could try and run something or get something pretty close to the green here, but if I miscue this, it is
nothing to aim at.
Lost ball. And so, well, why would you do that? When it's kind of,
there's a really generous layup from 180, isn't there? If you want to shot him from 180, 190, there's a really generous layup.
That's okay.
There. Yeah. Which really, that's the essence of a good par 5 there. It's like, do you want to have a really challenging third shot in, or do you want to take this on and really? And I really enjoyed the course. I thought it was fabulous. I think, some of those holes, I would agree with what you said about 7. I feel like 6 is a great par 4, and the green site on 8 is fabulous. But then to get to that point, you almost have to cover quite a bit of lower ground. And the channel course off to the left is all on that kind of, it's a little bit more marshier. There's like kind of reeds and a little bit of low lying water and stuff. And you feel like they've naturally got to cover quite difficult ground. And I think that means, 17 would be the weaker hole.
And I only say that
tougher for.
Yeah, I only say that because it just maybe stands out a little bit from, 1, where you're kind of playing through some crashing dunes a bit. 2 as well, elevated. It's very, very well framed with the dunes. And 15, again, like crashing dunes all around the drive, kind of semi-blind tee shot, or totally blind tee shot, in fact. And then 17 and 18 as well. There's some real character there. And I just said that because I think 7 stands out as being a bit flat, as you say, playing through the marshland. But I'm a big fan of Burnham and Berrow, and definitely encourage anyone to go and play it, particularly if you haven't seen the new bits of work that have been done by Mackenzie and Ebert, and some of the new changes on holes like 12 and 13, as you say.
Yeah, I agree. And also the only thing I'd just add on the course, I think there's closing stretch, playing match play golf, really good closing holes as well, like proper half pars. 16 drivable par 4, 17 kind of 200-yard par 3 over a huge ravine, dramatic kind of heroic golf hole. And 18 is really kind of how much do you want to bite off of the dog leg with your drive, which is all kind of feeds in. I thought it was great. Clubhouse, brilliant building, amazing building, and the guys behind the bar there. So Jack, funnily enough, it's rare you go to a club and you're like, oh yeah, I recognize the steward from a few years ago. But yeah, special shout out to Jack. I had a good chat with him about travels to America and stuff, and the guys really looked after us. Only other kind of brief things be little shout out to the unofficial sponsor of the weekend, which I think has to be Jelson Homes. We acquired this golf ball on the way around, and it just stuck with us, didn't it?
Yeah, on the Fridays, we both had the best part of 3.5 hours, I reckon, in the car. So there was a few stiff swings, when you're kind of running to the tee box to try and make your practice round tee time, putting a shoe on and, zipping up your waterproof trousers at the same time. It was all we were all a little bit flustered, weren't we? So made a couple of loose swings, early on in that front nine. You stupidly put on waterproof trousers with nothing underneath them, and it soon got to like 30-degree temperatures and you were just burning up. So you had to run back to get a pair of shorts and then run another 500 yards back from the clubhouse, or probably, more than that actually, because we're on the third tee by then. So you were a little bit flustered. I was, hit a couple of crap drives too. So I think we'd fired through a couple of tailor-made balls early on, and we just thought, well, Sam, you took the initiative. You thought, right, I'm gonna put this ball in play here, and it was a nice Jelson Holmes Pro V, wasn't it?
It was almost a watershed moment. Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the watershed moment in the weekend. It got us out of just shelling TP5s into the dunes. Just kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. But yeah, no, I think kind of wanted to record a short podcast just because, I think for one, the format it was just a really good reminder of how good foursomes golf can be. I love the format anyway, but particularly that kind of knockout match play environment is there's just such a great team vibe, isn't there? And it was just stellar fun. Really enjoyed it with you, mate. And
likewise,
I thought it was quite cool. So
I'll tell you what, I'd be keen to know if there are many other scratch match play foursomes events like that out there. As I mentioned earlier, Halford Hewitt, I've never played it. Have you ever played in that, Sam? I mean, we hear a lot about it, don't we?
I've played the Grafton Morris, which is another one. So
that's a schools one. But
so like the public schools foursome stuff is really popular. There's quite a big scene in that. There's obviously the Brentnall Bowl's got some of the other foursome society, and it has a massive representation for the armed services. So I think on the semi-finals,
we were the only one. Yeah,
we were the only non-forces. So we played against the RAF, who eventually took on the winners of the Army and the Navy, and I think the RAF beat the Army in the finals. Congratulations! And it's always nice to lose to the eventual winner. I guess that's the silver lining. But it's not something that's that popular, like you say. I'd be really keen to know what else exists in that space, because it's highly manageable to get a team of 6 together of good golfers for good scratch foursomes golf, and there must be more of it out there beyond those ones we talked about. I'd be really keen to know.
Yeah, and I think match play as well lends itself to that kind of nice competitive social blend. I think playing stroke play foursomes, I mean that's again ratcheted up a bit more, because I think foursomes, I in particular found it quite a sort of a good, fun, but also challenging format too, because obviously you don't want to put your partner in the crap and you can't necessarily build up as much of a rhythm. So I think match play is quite a nice format to play in that respect. I know there's a few foursomes stroke play events or opens out there, but I'd just be really keen to know if there's many other events like that out there, and what else you guys have played in. And
it's just really tactical as well, isn't it? So when you're on the tee, you want to be on the tee box first. You want to kind of be able to control the game a bit. If you're not, you want to when you're up against it, you feel like you want to just stay in the hole and at least make them 2-putt. And I think obviously you've played a lot of match play golf, things like Rye and stuff. It's quite interesting where you're sort of bouncing ideas and saying, like, let's just force a 2-putt here, or even in the afternoon on the first, it was like they'd bombed their first drive down the middle. I wanted to make sure that we were hitting the second shot first off the first, so I wanted to make sure I hang back from them, so that you've got a good look at the green and you can put them under a bit of pressure, and that yielded fruit as well. So
I think on a 340-yard par 3, it is always the play to just top one about 50 yards and try and add something quite interesting there and try and make the partner hit the green from 290 and unsettle them. I think that emotional roller coaster, as you say, if you put the oppo through an emotional roller coaster, it's just it scrambles the brain a bit, doesn't it?
That was definitely the low point for me, was topping it in front of the clubhouse off the first day. Having played really good golf together in the morning, and that was
as you say, we won the hole. We did win the hole.
There's no pictures on the scorecard, are there? So I would be really keen if people want to get in touch with any other scratch foursomes events they played in, particularly match play team events. That is certainly interesting. But we hope you've enjoyed the pod. As I say, Course Diaries, it's fair to say it's an ever-evolving beast. Nice talking about different courses we play on the travels. Hope you've enjoyed, and until then, adios.